Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us for our live session. Today's topic will be Think Less and Govern More with SysKit Point's automated governance policies. My name is Silvia, and I'm a sales executive here at SysKit. And here with me is our man of the hour, Mattia, who will be showing you a demo. Well, in just a minute when I finish my introduction. So yeah, as many of you already knows us as a company, but I believe that some of you don't. So let me give you a quick introduction to who we actually are. So SysKit is a software development company, and we've been founded more than 11 years ago. We develop products for Office 365 governance, as well as products for administration and monitoring of SharePoint on-premise. So we currently have more than 3,000 customers in over 75 countries worldwide. Actually, the numbers are even bigger now. And well, as you can see from our slide, we can brag about some of those as they are quite famous. So we currently have 5 products, including our award-winning SP Docket for on-premise documentation. I believe a lot of you knows about it. And of course, we have our SysKit Point for Office 365 governance, which we'll be actually talking about today. So just before we start, a few housekeeping rules, okay? So all registrants, all of you will actually receive a recording of this session, well, within a few days after this is done. After Matthias' presentation and SysKit Point demo, we will have a Q&A session where you can actually ask any questions, well, you might have. Don't be shy, feel free to ask. And yeah, just use this Q&A function on the top right of the screen to ask any questions you might have throughout the entire session. Yeah, I've been talking too much, so I'm gonna turn things over now to Mattia for this part you're all interested in, which is the actual demo. Mattia, are you ready?
Yeah, thank you, Silvia. Can you just confirm if you can see my screen, the presentation?
Yes, I can.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Silvia, once again for the nice introduction. And I'd like to say hi to everyone. So I'm delighted to show you some of the cool new stuff that we've just released in version 19. So we are going to primarily talk about governance automation, but just a quick reminder for those of you new to SysKit Point, what SysKit Point actually is. So SysKit Point is basically a governance tool for Office 365. You can think of it like a central location, central place where you can get comprehensive report on what is happening inside your entire Office 365 environment. So you can see that it covers different workloads. So it will show you like Microsoft Teams, Azure AD, Microsoft 365 Group, SharePoint Online, OneDrive. So it collects all the data together and gives them in a, let's say, nice presentable way so you can easily see everything that's connected. So for instance, you want to see all the places that a single user has permissions, you'll see that across all the workloads. But even beyond that, it's not just for admins. Basically, it can bridge the gap between IT and business owners. And it can do so in, let's say, an intelligent way where you can define company policies, and those company policies, you can automate enforcement of those policies. And that usually works that you define some policy, let's say that you want to perform regular access reviews, or you want to automated group expiration. And based on that policies, business owners will get tasks which they have to solve. And to, let's say, even top that, you can specify different escalation measures if you are not satisfied or do not believe that they will actually follow the tasks. Okay, so let's start with the main topic. So why even policy enforcements? So in simply, we did it because the customers asked for it. So we talked with a lot of customers, we heard their problems, and a lot of the times they say, okay, I know I have a lot of bad groups, I have orphan groups, I have groups with, let's say, only one owner, but the problem is that they don't have the time to deal with that. So even if we tell them, hey, here are your problems, they don't have the time to find the solutions. That's the main, let's say, reason that how we envision to fix this problem. So the first thing that we do is basically detect all violations once you set up the policies. What the policies can be, we'll go that in more details later. So after we detect that something is not the way you want it to be, we offer you different automated options. How do you want to resolve that problem? And the cool thing about that is that you as an IT admin basically don't have to do anything. So it's completely decentralized. And that's good because if you need to solve a problem with, let's say, some team or some group, who knows the main facts about that team? That's probably the team or group owner. So they can take accountability and they can take basically the management away from IT. So you don't have to do anything, you just have to set up the initial policies. So the first automated policies that we are going to talk about are concerning ownerships. So this relates to either Microsoft 365 group owners or Microsoft team owners. So of course you can have some best practices here. So the first one is setting and defining the minimum number of owners. So the thing is here that usually you should have a minimum of 2 owners. So if you ask yourself why, so basically having one owner is not a problem, but if you only have one problem, then you could have a future problem if even that one owner leaves. So the idea here is to always have 2 and prevent the problem before it actually becomes the problem. So if you have only one and that person also leaves, then at that point you have nobody to take care of the team administration, membership changes, and even do other stuff from the policies you've defined. Maybe somebody has to do access reviews periodically. If you have no owners, nobody is going to do it. So we solve that by introducing the first policy enforcement policy, where you basically can specify what's the minimum number. Let's say the number that makes sense is 2, but maybe you want it to be 3 or even 5 for some group. So what's cool is that you can have different policies for different groups. So you can, let's say, specify it any way you want. The other important things that we heard from our customers is, okay, maybe I can specify that, but what will happen if the site owner doesn't respond and he doesn't do anything? So we offer different escalation measures, from automatically archiving to automatically deleting or reassigning the task to the manager of that person who was in charge of actually doing that task initially. So this can all be configured based on your company, let's say, requirements. The other one, which is pretty much similar, and I think that I don't have to explain it a lot, maximum number of owners. So once again, if you have a group or team with a lot of owners, so what tends to happen, if you have too many owners, basically nobody will take responsibility for anything. So you have an access review and you have to do it, and 5 people get a task and, oh, that other person is going to do it. So nobody is going to feel responsible for it because you just have too many owners. Once again, you can customize the number. Maybe you have some huge public teams in your companies and 5 is not a good number for those teams. So different teams can have different numbers. All of that is possible. And once again, you have different escalation measures. This time, you can once again reassign the task to the manager of the reviewer. You can reassign it to SysKit Point administrators, even some specific people. Or you can just say, okay, you guys did not respond. I'm just going to remove automatically the excess of users. So if it was 8 and the policy says 5, we are going to remove 3 users and it's going to be 5. We are going to, let's say, try to be smart about it, and we are going to remove the users which have the least activity on that team or group. Okay, since this was, let's say, pretty easy to figure out what the policies do, let's just switch to the demo. Hopefully you can see my first browser screen. So this time I'm inside SysKit Point. I'm logged in as Eva, and Eva is the basically global admin in charge of this tenant. So when it comes to policy enforcement, I have to go to settings, governance. And here you have the new screen. It's called automated workflows. What you can do here, the first option you actually see is the create new policy. And here you see all the options that we're going to talk about. So access reviews are actually something that was basically just renamed. It's the old permissions review from the previous versions. but it's also at the same place. But this time we are going to focus on the minimum and maximum owners. So you can create completely new policies for any type. Or in this case, we are just going to edit the existing ones because we already have them pre-created. So let me show you just the minimum number of owners policy. Here you see it has a minimum of 2 owners. If I edit that, I can change the number. I can say, should you send a reminder? And I can decide, hey, what needs to happen if the owners do not resolve this task until the due date? And you can see here that the due date is basically going to be 15 work days. So you have different options. Like I said, reassign the task or do some automated action like automatically archive and delete. You don't have to worry if something automated is going to happen. They're going to see and get emailed, hey, if you do not resolve that, it's going to be archived. So they will know what's going to happen. The cool thing about this is if you let's say you want to reassign it, maybe you want to have custom recipients. So groups from marketing should have, let's say, head of marketing as the guy who is going to decide what should happen to that group. And once again, groups from HR should have maybe head of HR or somebody from IT. So you have the possibility to create multiple policies and then choose where to apply them. Okay, so this was for the minimum. Let's look at the maximum owners policy. Once again, you see the number, which is customizable. You see the information and how this is actually going to work and how much time do the owners have to do what they need to do. And once again, you have escalation measures. So if they do not do anything in the 50 days that we gave them, should we remove them automatically or should we reassign the task like to their managers? Once you configure and create policies, you have to apply them. And that's pretty straightforward. You just go to the apply policies. And here you have to pick groups and pick either teams, groups, sites, whatever you need, and apply a policy. So if I want to apply some policy to Microsoft 365 group, I can simply filter by that. I can just select a few of those sites and I can apply a policy and say, hey, those groups should have a minimum of 2 owners and a maximum of 5 owners. What's pretty cool about this, that you can apply different policies at once. So you don't have to do it multiple times. You just do it once, you set it up, and that's it. And basically this way, if you have, let's say, different rules, so maybe for public teams, you want that number 5 to be 10 because you have a lot of members. So with this kind of multi-select, it's easy to do something like that. Okay, so now we've seen how to set it up, how to configure it. And once you apply it, basically your work as an admin is done. So now we are going to switch to the view of a business user. And the first thing that we're going to look at, so here you can notice that I'm Cork. So Cork is a site owner. So Cork got automatically notified that one of his teams called Project Jupiter should have a minimum of 2 owners, but it doesn't. So he has to click the resolve inside the email. And straight away, he is basically brought to the SysKit Point interface. And here he has all the information to make basically the correct choice. So what does he see? He sees that, okay, this is your policy. You should have 2 owners. Currently, you are the only owner. So you have 2 options. Either you're going to promote somebody from the members. Let's say in this case, I think it should be Jonathan. Or you can pick somebody who's not even in the group. When you are satisfied, it should be Jonathan. You can just leave a comment. And basically, your task is done. So the similar can be applied to the policy for the max owners. Once again, I'm switching to a different browser. So this time you can see that I'm logged in as Jonathan. He's another business owner, and he has gotten an email, hey, your team, remote work help, has exceeded the limit of maximum 5 owners. You have to resolve it and you have some time to do it. If you do not do it, you can see what will happen. It will be automatically removed, so the excess owners. Once you click resolve, once again, SysKit Point will redirect you to basically the screen where you have all the information. So what you can see here, who's currently the owner, and you can also see the activity timeline. So here you can actually see that Corg Blanc, who is also an owner of this group, has already said, hey, I want to stay an owner. I'm not sure who should leave the group. But let's say that you are, and you think that John Wick should not be an owner anymore, you can just resolve it. Once that is done, you see the entire timeline of everything that has happened. And if there was a, let's say, either a reassignment or an escalation or automated action, you would see it in the history timeline. And this history timeline, basically, you can access it either as a business user by going to your tasks, and you have the completed section where you can see what has been completed. You can click on it, see all the details. Or once again, if I go back to my admin account, Eva, so Eva is a global admin, she can see anything. So she can go to the governance screen inside SysKit Point. She can go to the section policy violations, and she has basically two options here. So the first one is overview, where she sees all the active policy violations, but she can also see the history. And if we go to the history and check, okay, show me the minimum number of owners, I can see, okay, Project Saturn, that was the one that we resolved just a couple of minutes ago. She can see the entire history. So what was the problem, who solved it, and how? And that was basically the first two policy enforcements that we have. It's the min and max. Okay, so let's return to the presentation. So the next one is orphan workspaces. So like I said, when I was talking about the minimum number of owners, basically the main idea behind that is that you never have orphan workspaces, because if it comes to that, then nobody is going basically to administer that site. So owners are in charge of, let's say, security and productivity. If you have no owners, nobody is in charge. Nobody is going to do data governance. Nobody is going to check memberships. And basically at that point, the only thing you can do is basically rely on the IT to fix the problem. And this is something that we want to avoid, basically not involve the IT, but automate that process. So there's like no ideal solution for this problem. Each company is different. So we offer them basically a couple of choices. So you can even use different choices for different groups depending on how sensitive they are. So what you can do is you can say, if this group becomes orphaned, you can assign some accountable person, maybe somebody from IT, to figure out who should be the new owner. The other processes that we offer is you can ask members to suggest a new owner. So basically this will be a two-step workflow. In the first, members will suggest, then you will assign somebody who's in charge of approving what the members have suggested. And the last fully automated process is where you actually don't need any interaction. We'll just look at who was the manager of the last owner, and that person will get an email. Hey, your employee has left the company. This was his team. You are now in charge of it. Decide what to do with it. Okay, let's do a demo of that. So once again, I'm going to start with my admin side. So if we go back to settings, you'll notice that we have the orphan groups policies. You'll even notice that we have multiple policies because they have different settings. So the first one, if we look at it, is basically saying if we detect an orphan team or group, automatically assign a new owner. So we are going to look to Azure AD, who was the manager of the last owner, and we are going to put that person as the new owner. In some cases, it's possible that Azure AD was not configured correctly, so you can choose escalation measures. So if we do not find a manager, who should you contact? Maybe Eva, she's the global admin. Here you see a different flow we've decided to ask the members to suggest the new owners. And this is a two-stage process, as you can see here. So when we detect this situation, we instantly ask the members to suggest owners. And once the members give their suggestions, somebody will have to decide who is actually correct. Maybe they all vote for the same person, maybe they do, maybe they don't. Okay, let's look at that from the user side. So once again, I'm switching to the mailbox of my business user, Cork. So Cork has got an email. Hey, team building has no owners. You have to resolve it. And you see when he opens that screen, so just to be clear, Cork is not an owner of this team. He's a member of this team. So the team has no owners. That's the whole point. So what the Cork can do, but also all the other members, is to suggest who should be the new owner. So he can, once again, pick an existing member or suggest somebody completely new, maybe his boss. If he thinks that this team is not needed at all, maybe he can suggest to archive it or delete it. He can also see the entire timeline. So if somebody else, like Jonathan here, already loaded, so Jonathan said it should be Cork, and Cork said it should be Jonathan. To make his job easy, let's just agree with Jonathan that it should be Cork and resolve it. And once again, you see the timeline. So this was basically the first part. The second part of this is that we've specified that Eva should be the one who decides. And just like the business users, we go back to Eva, and Eva has her tasks. So how this is going to look like, Eva will have a task for the ownership review. She'll have to resolve it, and Eva will be able to see who actually voted which way. So this is not the same team. It does take a couple of minutes to show up here, but Eva can see what the members have voted, and she can say, okay, it should be Adele. I'm just going to promote it and click resolve, and that's it. Also, if something happens completely automated, then Eva can go to the history. She can go to the orphaned resources, and here she'll be able to see, okay, this was completed by SysKit Point. It was resolved automatically. So nothing can go under the radar. Okay, back to the presentation. Okay, the next automation, this one is, let's say, pretty cool and pretty useful, is that you can actually specify how to control your guest users and how to decertify them. So let's say one of the advantages of Office 365 is basically that it's really easy to invite and collaborate with some other company. But when that collaboration is done, usually you want to clean up that access to make sure that you don't have some security holes. So basically, SysKit Point gives you two options. First one is basically that SysKit Point will tell you, okay, this user has been inactive for some time. Do you want to delete it? And the other option is just say periodically, once per month, you have to basically review all the guest users. And once again, you can choose who should be in charge of that. Should it be somebody specific, SysKit Point admins, or if you filled up the manager of the reviewer in Azure AD, then you can even use that. Okay, let's jump into the demo part. Okay, like always, we're going to start on the admin side, and that's Eva. We are going to go to the policy automation. So the only difference between this policy and the other ones is that this policy applies to the entire tenant, and you can only have one. So you cannot have multiples. You can edit it, and you can define the parameters. So should it be based on inactivity or just periodically? What time period should the user be inactive before you are asked to decertify them? And who should do the certification? Should it be the manager of the guest user? And what happens if there is no manager of the guest user? Also, one cool option, if nobody is willing to take responsibility for that user, just delete him. Once again, we are going to switch browsers to Cork, and Cork is in his tasks, but also he will be notified by email, and you see how it looks like. So Cork, this is the policy of your company. You have to decide what to do with this external user. He can click resolve, and here he will see some basic information about that user. So Megan, which works at BlueWorks, he's the setup as the manager, and this is the time she last logged in. So he has only two choices: either to completely remove that user from Azure AD, or to keep that user and the user will still have access. If he is not sure, he can even click on that user and he will see additional information. Okay, what has Megan actually been doing? Where does she have access? And let's say that we want to remove her, not needed anymore. And basically Cork is all done. Now we can go back to the admin side, and once again, under the governance history, we can see what has happened. What we can also see under the overview is all the active violations. So you can see when was the violation detected, what's the status, and if nobody is taking care of it, you don't want to wait for the escalation of automatic measures. You can even go in and do the action yourself as an admin. And that's basically how the guest user exploration works. Okay, and the last part of today's demo is the improvements we've made to external sharing. So this is something that we already had, but we've decided to make it even better, even easier to use. So the things that we focused on is how to discover external users, how to report on them, and how to give you even a better audit experience of who actually shared something with an external user or what has external user actually been doing inside your tenant. So once again, the best place to show this is the demo. For this, we are going to use the global admin account EVA, but this functionality is even available for the teams and group owners for the guest users on their own sites. So the first thing that has changed is you'll notice here that on the sites overview, you have one additional column. It's called external users. If you add it, instantly you can see a column stating how many external users is inside that site, OneDrive, group, or team. So we cover all the workloads. Easily, you can also go here to the externally shared sites, which will basically pre-filter only sites which have external users. So how this worked before, basically you would see all the sites which had a sharing setting and was able to share with external users, but this time you only actually see sites that have external users, which will basically make your life easier. The next area that we improved, so this was, let's say, the discoverability. The reporting area, if we go to the externally shared content, and if we click here, you'll notice that here on the filter step, I only see actual sites which have external users. So you notice that I have 33 sites with external users. In the previous version, this would look like this. You would basically see a list of all the sites and their sharing settings. You could select something, and if you selected the, let's say, the wrong site which has no external, you would just generate a report with no data. This way, it's a lot easier, and instantly you can see if the site has external users. So let's say, and let's just try to generate a report for the QA team. Simple as that. Select the team, say report, and in a couple of seconds, I get all the sharing inside that team with all the external users. So you can see, okay, external account Eva, this is probably her Gmail, has access to one document. Adele and Alex have access to some other documents. You can see that also Adele is the member of the QA team, so she's a guest user inside the team. So basically you see all the information, all the documents which have been shared externally. What's also pretty cool, if you want to remove something, you just click on it and execute the action. So Alex should not be here, not a problem. Remove Alex. Okay, and the last part that was improved was the audit part. So let's look at a couple of the scenarios. So first of all, what was the external user doing on your tenant? So before, you had to come into the file and page activities. You would select your team and you would generate a report. And it would look basically something like this. So you see a lot of actions. But we've made it a lot easier because now in the newer version, it's pretty similar. You go here, but you'll notice that you have a new filter, activities performed by only external users. And if you run the report this way, basically you only see what external users are doing on that site. And you can select multiple sites if you want. Other use cases where you see similar improvements, one of them is the user activity. So maybe you want to check, okay, what did Cork share with external users? Once again, you can go to Cork, you can say, I want to see activities that Cork has been doing, but only external sharing. And once again, using the new filter, this is pretty easy. So you can see this was performed by Cork. He's been creating secure links and he's been basically sharing stuff with Alex. And the last improvement I want to show you guys is basically the site permission changes, where once again, you can choose to focus just on things that have been shared externally. So you can say, I want to include all the sharing, external sharing, or maybe you just want to pick specific events. And once again, you only see stuff related to sharing with external users. Okay, and that was our last demo. Let's go back to the presentation. So basically, this is it, what we have for today, but a lot more is coming later this year. Something is coming sooner, some things will come later during the summer. But the major things that you will see from SysKit Point in the future, which are on our roadmap. So the first thing is provisioning. Basically, provisioning templates with the ability to have different approvals, 1-stage, 2-stage approvals, whatever you need. And this is going to be tied in with the Microsoft Team apps. So your end users will be able to see templates where you created, okay, I want a team which has pre-built channels, pre-built tabs, settings, different settings related to allowing guest users or all the settings that basically team supports. And you can control that as an admin and they will just request, I want that team from that template and that's it. What's also coming is sensitivity label support. So not just that we'll show you on the reports the sensitivity label of our content, but we'll also enable integration with the other stuff that we have, like policy enforcement, access reviews. So maybe the sensitive stuff should be have access reviews every 1 month, while the other stuff can have like every 3 months. That will be possible. And the last thing that we're also working on actively is basically allowing custom role-based access, where you will be able to more granularly specify who should be able to access Point and to see what in Point. If you have a first level support team which should only see SharePoint sites and not teams, that's going to be possible, and many more situations like that. And last but not least, if you have any feedback on what you've seen today or any ideas that we didn't mention, please contact us. We'll be glad to talk to you. Silvio, handing it back to you.
Thank you, Mattia. This was a great presentation. I'm sure our attendees were very happy with what they saw today. So yeah, guys, as said in the beginning, now is the time for our Q&A session. So yeah, feel free to ask the questions even during the Q&A session, or if you have a question on our answer or something like that. So yeah, now let's go and dig into some of your questions we actually have here. So I'm gonna start with the one that has actually been asked by multiple people, but I'm gonna try to sort it into one. So basically, Mattia, people are interested, or can we rebrand the tool not to show SysKit but another logo. I guess this
Yeah,
concerns the
yeah.
emails and so on.
Inside the emails, you can completely change the look and feel. It doesn't have to even show SysKit. You can put your own company logo there.
Then there is a one question additionally that is actually connected to that one, which asks us, is there a possibility to customize a dashboard to also show, I believe this is how it was intended to be asked. Please tell me if I'm wrong in the questions, but I believe that the guys here are asking, can we maybe add to the dashboards and to the reports some kind of a company logo?
Yeah, I really like that idea. That's definitely something that we'll do in the future versions. So right away from the dashboard, which should be like the first place you go inside SysKit Point as admins, you'll be able to see, hey, I got policy variations from that. So currently no, but that's definitely coming.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so let's go and dig deeper into the next things we have. So will we be able to enforce naming conventions with provisioning?
Yeah, definitely. That's on the roadmap. So enforcing naming conventions, even URL conventions you want for your team sites and teams and groups, that's something that we plan to do.
Okay, thank you. Next question is there a way to assign policies automatically to newly added resources?
Yeah, currently. I didn't show it, but it's in the option just below the basic list of all the policies. So if you want to automatically assign the orphan groups policy, yeah, you can do that.
Okay, great. Thank you. The next question, okay, is it possible to delete guests who have not redeemed their invitations in a certain amount of days?
Yeah, currently not directly, but if they have not redeemed an invitation, basically they will not be active. So it will trigger in some time, but not instantly.
Okay, great. And okay, let's pick one more question. And so basically, can you configure the time to complete the given tasks?
Yeah, currently not, but that's something that we can talk about. So if you can just contact us, tell us why this is important for you, we'll be glad to discuss it and see how to change this.
Okay, so I'm not seeing any additional questions onto the things that we've answered at the moment. So yeah, I guess with this last question, we can basically slowly wrap up this entire session. So thank you, Mattia, for answering those questions. Thanks you guys for asking them. Yeah, once again, thank you all for joining us today. As mentioned, everyone who's registered is going to receive a recording of the session within a few days or sometime early next week. And if you have any further questions regarding SysKit Point or absolutely any of our products, feel free to reach out. We're going to help you. Just go to sales@syskit.com and drop us an email. Yeah, it was a pleasure having you all here, guys. And yeah, see you next time.